Welcome to Kingdom Mothers Rise Up, where I encourage and equip you to heal your heart and renew your mind so you can live the fully abundant life Jesus promised you. Let's go. It's time to move.
Welcome to this episode of the Kingdom Mompreneur podcast. My guest today is Natalie Blenkush. Got it. Okay. And Natalie is a brand strategist and marketing coach and the host of Wildly Aligned Marketing Podcast. She helps purpose-driven women in business consistently find and attract the right clients online by bringing their authentic self. She believes that being yourself isn't a cheesy cliche, but actually the key to building a strong and profitable online brand and business. Welcome, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. And I love that, being you is key.
Yes.
Yeah, so key, so good. So tell me a little bit about, we talked about your business, where you're coming from with branding and all, but what about you as a mom, as a woman?
Yeah. So I guess I'll give a short version of my story and how I got started in business, because that very much plays into my motherhood journey as well. So I started my business in 2018. I, at the time, was single parenting. I was in full-time school studying nutrition. I had a toddler. And I got to this point where I felt really burnt out and just felt like I went from really passionate about what I was doing to all of a sudden it was like a switch was turned off. And I was like, I think my time here is done. I'm going to complete what I'm doing, but I just knew that I needed to do something else. And so I kind of started to switch gears mentally and really just lean into what are those dreams that God's put inside of me, but more specifically, like the skills, the interests, what kind of things did I used to like to do? And so what I kind of leaned into was I really loved to play around with Photoshop and just graphic design type stuff when I was in middle school and high school. And I knew I wanted to work from home. I wanted some way to work from home. I wasn't necessarily looking to start a business, but that's what it led to. And so I was like, well, that seems like a easy thing to do. Like if I'm wanting to work from home, graphic design is very much needed. So I just kind of went that route. And very quickly, one thing led to another and ended up starting my business in graphic design and web design. And how this plays into my role as a mom is because I very quickly put two and two together as I here I am finishing this degree in nutrition. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to be working full time. The job that I got offered would have been really early. And I'd be having to drop her off at daycare, finding a daycare that was even open that early in the morning. And I was like, this isn't how I want to live. Like, I don't want to have her in childcare all the time, be working all the time. And especially being that I was a single mom at that point, I was like, I'm not even going to be making much, it's like almost my whole salary was going to be going to childcare. And so I just, took that leap and started my business. And I guess that's kind of a synopsis of how I got started. And, it's something that, like I said, the desire of my heart at the time was I want to be more present with my daughter. I didn't want to have her gone all the time. And, I just wanted to find a way to be able to do that and be present with her. Especially because, again, at that point, it wasn't possible for me to be a stay-at-home mom. So it was like, I have to work. How can I work and be present at the same time?
Yeah. And then have you found that trying to build a business from home, flies in the face of your desire to be home and be present?
It does, but it is challenging for sure. It's, there are many moments in my business where I kind of give myself a reality check of, wait a minute, the way that I'm showing up currently in this moment, is this in line with the desire that I had in the first place?
Right.
I think it's really important to remember that vision that you have of like, yes, your business, but more so the vision that you have for how you want to live, like your vision for your life when you are starting this business. Because it's really important to have that as a guide so that as you're moving forward and growing your business, you can kind of put that, put it through that filter of the way that I'm operating right now, or the way that I'm structuring this program or doing whatever I'm setting out to do in my business. Does that line up with how I want to live my life? Like, for example, right now it's summer as we're recording. If you are like, hey, I really want to be able to play with my kids and go to the beach and go to the park, and I don't want to have a bunch of calls, but you're promoting a program that has weekly group calls or whatever, just making sure that it lines up. So that's something that, short answer, yes, running an online business does allow me to do that. And it's something that I'm incredibly grateful for, is being able to work from home. And that's something that I often write in my journal is I get to work from home today. Like I get to do client work. I get to have this flexibility. But the challenges are numerous. Like it is something that you have to be really intentional about.
Yeah. So what do the challenges look like, especially running a business as a single mom?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that pops into my mind is the guilt, because it's like, here I was wanting to be more present, yet there were so many times where, my daughter's next to me and I'm on my phone or I'm on my laptop. And, I had to remind myself in those moments, like, but I am here with her. Like if she needs me, I can put down what I'm doing. And there was times where I was better about that than other times. Right. But it was just, something that I guess I didn't expect to feel that guilt. I was like, I'm here, I'm working from home. But then when I was in that situation, it was just the reality of being a work from home mom is not the same as a stay at home mom. And I think in my head, I had kind of pictured it as I'll be here and we'll be, doing stuff together and then I'll work sometime, but I didn't really foresee how that guilt would pop up. And that was very interesting to me, but it did really help. Like I, had surrounded myself with other women. I had gotten in Facebook groups and just surrounded by a community of other women who a lot of them were moms. And so this was something that it was helpful for me to see, like, this is normal. It's normal to feel guilty and also have that reassurance that, just because you're on your laptop, you're building your business from home, your kids are going to be okay. There's so many ways that motherhood can look. And so, being a work from home mom is a tremendous blessing, but it's going to look different. And so I think being a new business owner, that was something that I didn't expect to face. And I would say, being a single mom specifically at that season in my life, it was just me. I didn't have someone helping me out with stuff. So, I did a lot of late nights. My daughter would be asleep and I would be in school all day or working part-time in the evenings. And so I'd put her to bed and I'd pull late nighters. But that was also just what worked best for me at the time. Was I got most creative at night, right? Some people like to get up early, and that's what I do now in this season of life is I just start my day earlier. But at that point it just worked. And so that was something that, it worked for me, but of course it was challenging because I had a toddler who got up early.
Yeah. That makes it challenging for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes as moms running businesses, like we can feel guilty that we're working on our business and maybe not being as present as we want to be. But like I've been a stay-at-home mom without a business too, and I can still find ways to not be present.
Right.
And so again, it comes back to that, like, does this fit with who I want to be and with who I'm made to be, as far as, your offers, how you're interacting with your kids, how you're interacting with your clients, like, stepping back to that bigger picture of who do I want to be?
Yeah.
So, since that's kind of what you focus on, like, what suggestions do you have for moms that are kind of like, well, like, I don't have time to figure out who I want to be. I'm just trying to keep the kids going and I'm trying to get this business to make some money, or the business is making money and I have to keep it going. Like,
yeah. Like in terms of how they're showing up online. Is that what you mean?
of how, like, how do they, if they feel like they're not sure, maybe they're not sure who they are, to then translate that to, or maybe it's like, well, I think this is who I am, but how does that translate to showing up online? Because the gurus or the experts are telling me this is what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that question. I would say number one, put your blinders on. I really struggled with comparison, especially in the beginning of my business. I also feel like that's just part of my personality, but especially as a newbie, and I was younger at that point too, I remember just really, looking too much at other people and how they were showing up. And so some like tangible examples of what I mean by that. Some people there was a coach that I was working with at the time, and she was super bubbly and energetic and just had a level of confidence that I did not, but I saw a lot of people showing up like that. And it wasn't just her. And it made me feel like I needed to show up that way. If I was showing up live, if I was showing up in my Facebook group, I had to be really animated and, so there was one way that showed up, or another way was even just feeling a lot of pressure to have like a set hours in which I was working my business, or I didn't have childcare, like when I had childcare, it's because I was at school. And when I was working my business, my daughter was with me or she was sleeping, in bed next to me. So that was something that I didn't have childcare. So if I did a live video, my daughter was most likely going to come in at some point, or, being worried about something happens and then I have to like go. And so it was just because I was looking at other people and making that mean that I had to show up like they were showing up, that caused me a lot of stress, because I was like, I don't have childcare. I don't have set hours. And so I was trying to kind of force my business to look a certain way that did not match the season of life that I was in. And it was just the reality. Right. And I'm reminded of that even now, again, being that it's summer, my daughter is home a lot more. So I only have 2 days of childcare versus when she's in school 5 days a week. So it's just, really leaning into that season holds a lot of value. And just like I said in the beginning, going back to how do you want to live your life and making sure that your business matches up to that. So yeah, the putting your blinders on, not getting sucked in comparison, I guess would be probably the biggest thing in terms of, just like, if you're not sure how, like, who am I? How do I explain this online? I guess the other thing that comes to mind is don't overthink it. Right. Yeah. I say all the time that being yourself is a lot easier said than done, because it is like, well, who am I, especially as moms? And so, I guess this might vary from person to person, but I feel like there's just a certain element of when you become a mom, it's like a whole new identity. And so you go through, putting, shooting yourself about, oh, because I'm a mom, I should be this, I should dress like this, I should show up like this, whatever it is. And, I know I had to really do a lot of soul searching in year one of my business for that very reason, because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to show up online and I don't feel confident in what I'm wearing and how I'm talking. And I just, I had to figure out, what do I like? What do I like to do? What is my style? What, diving into personality tests. Like I just really dove into learning more about myself. And the more that I did that, the more easily I could show up in my business confidently, knowing this is authentic to me because I know who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you talked about the trying to be like somebody else was creating stress. So like, that's a really good key. If it's stressing you out, then
Right.
maybe it doesn't fit this season. Maybe it doesn't fit your personality. Maybe it doesn't fit your clients. Like that stress is there for a reason. It's trying to tell you to pay attention. So,
Right.
be, I guess, just instead of like, oh, I shouldn't be stressed. No, listen to that stress.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it there? Is it because it doesn't fit your personality? Because it doesn't fit your season?
Right.
Because you're trying to be somebody you're not, or whatever.
Right.
That's really
Right.
good.
Yeah. And it's just that reminder of our emotions are telling us something, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we are feeling overwhelmed, like, we were at the cabin for a whole week, and jumping back into business, caught myself feeling overwhelmed. And it's like, okay, why am I overwhelmed? Right? Like, I'm not going to stay stuck here. Let's get curious and let's dig into, why am I feeling overwhelmed? Right. And it was just this backlog of tasks that had been going on in my brain, and I brain dumped them, and, I was good. So it's, paying attention to, if you're feeling stressed, if you feel like it's this big daunting thing to show up, why is that? What are you assuming that you need to do that you don't actually need to do? Because a thing that I'm really big on reminding women about is that we have the freedom to choose how we run our business, how we show up in our business. Because everyone's business journey and model and everything, motherhood journey, everything is different. And so just reminding yourself, when you are in that place of, questioning, how should I do something? Just reminding yourself, like, how do I want to do it? Right? How do I want to choose to show up or do this launch or run this business? Because when we just make those quick decisions, that's also a really key skill to have as a business owner as well.
We'll be right back.
Art Doodling with Jesus is a membership where I do a live workshop once a month where we explore an emotion or an idea through doodling, which is just a simple creative process. I encourage you to draw with permanent markers and paint with watercolor paint to create space to listen to your emotions, the thoughts that are in your head, and what the Lord wants to say to you. It is not about creating art. It is not about being good at it. It's about practicing the pause to go, what am I really feeling? What do I really think? What do I really believe on this particular topic? And giving you tools that you can use for yourself and with your kids to continue to explore your emotions outside of the workshops. You can come back and do workshops again and again if you're in the membership, but you also can take the practice that I'm teaching you and do it on your own for what's going on in your life. If you're interested in joining me, there's a link in the description.
Yeah, I love the question. And I don't remember now where I first heard it, but they were like, what if it could be easy?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, I don't know. What if it could be easy? So it's a fun question to ask. And like, yeah, what would it like if I could do it how I wanted? What would that look like?
Right. Yeah. And then just trusting yourself to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you find trusting yourself easy, or has that been part of your journey?
That's for sure been a part of my journey. I would say, so I think this is my 5th year in business. And now in 2022 versus 2018, it is a lot easier for me to trust myself now, but it's still something that I continually remind myself about, right? I think it's something that you look at anyone's marketing and the message that they are sharing often. It's like, if you flip that around, they're giving themselves that reminder. Like, I think that's something that we all have, certain things that, certain struggles, I guess, things that we've personally faced, that it's just a part of, because we are the way that we are, this thing is challenging for us for whatever reason. And so just knowing that you can share that, like, I guess it makes me think of that saying of your mess is your message. It's like knowing that I do struggle with perfectionism, like getting stuck in, well, I have to have all this stuff ready to launch it. Well, not really, because if I let it be easy and I let it be simple, I could cut it down to 2 steps instead of 20, right? So, and just knowing that, going back to trusting yourself, knowing that if I have a message on my heart, if I want to put out a program, like someone needs that. And so it's definitely a process, but it's something that I'm continually reminding myself of, and also am just grateful that as I kind of walk that journey out, that I can also share it with people, because it's like, I don't have it down, but it's something that I'm always working on, and I have come a long way. And I know that just by being transparent about that I can help other women also learn to trust themselves more.
Yeah, which is such a beautiful thing. And that's a lot of what I want to do with this podcast is like what we have overcome is making a way to show others that they can overcome too.
Yeah.
And so building that community to encourage one another, but then like also just like when we say it again and we share that testimony again, like we encourage ourselves again too, of like, oh, right, I do know this stuff.
Yeah.
I have overcome some things. I have figured some stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I listen back to all my podcast episodes because I do my own editing still. And even when I outsource it, I still will listen to my own episodes. And there's so many times where I hear my own voice talking to myself, playing it back, being like, man, that was good. Like, I really needed to hear that today, because it's like, I totally encourage myself with the stuff that I put out there as well, because I also need to hear it.
Yeah, I'm reading my book, Mess to Majesty, for an audiobook. And I was just reading it a couple days ago and was like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like, thank you, Lord. This is really good. So yeah, just that encouragement of every woman has something to offer. Like we all have stuff we need, but we all have stuff to offer too. And to not let that comparison get in the way of like, well, I don't have this many followers, or I don't have this level of income, or I don't, whatever. It doesn't matter. You have something to offer. You have something you have learned and that you can share.
Right. Right. Well, and even, you mentioned in your book, it's like just being able to keep in mind that if I need to hear this reminder, like if this is something that I think or struggle with or whatever, and I need to hear this reminder, then someone else does too. And then it's like, okay, overthinking done. Like you hear people say all the time, if, whether you're running a podcast or a Facebook group or whatever, like if I just impact one person, then it's all worth it. And so that's something that, when you're really embracing that, I think about that every time I put out a post or I put out a podcast episode. Like I have a specific person in mind, like the person who is struggling with comparison today, the person who is stuck in perfectionism and just needs to put it out right now and embrace messy action, or the person who like I always have that kind of one person mentality. Because it is really helpful to just keep that in mind. Like if I need to hear this message, someone else does too. So there is nothing to overthink. I can just put it out there.
Yeah, that's really good. What would you say has been the biggest blessing of being a work-at-home mom and having your own business?
The biggest blessing. That is such a great question. I would say, I guess the given is being able to work from home, right? Like have that flexibility, be able to be present as a mom, as a wife now. That is something that I'm always really grateful for. But I would say maybe a more unconventional blessing is I have been able to grow so much personally from having a business, just like grow as a woman and a person. In my faith, like confidence, boldness, speaking my mind, like all areas, truly. Again, thinking about this 5-year span, it's like, I look at pictures of myself when I first started my business, and I feel like I'm looking at a completely different person just because I know how much I've grown. And that is really such an amazing blessing, because it's, I see the very tangible ways in which just developing my own business, working on myself to grow the business, has strengthened me as a person. And it just helps me truly be a better mom, a better wife, just a better friend, because I've done the work to work on my stuff. I'm thinking about my mindset. I'm growing closer to God, right? Like all these things, I did them at the time with the intention of, I want to grow my business, but it's just spilled over into really, really being this tremendous blessing in all areas of my life.
Yeah. So it sounds like you maybe set out looking for tools and strategies to build your business, but found that it was really more about building you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I remember hearing the whole 80-20 thing. Like it's, success is 20% strategy, 80% mindset, and not really fully understanding what that meant. But it really is like, it just, you look at the amount of times that it's really a strategy issue versus it's a you issue. It's your thoughts. It's what you're saying you're capable of. It's what you're making this situation mean. Like that is the problem. And when you solve that, then the business issue over here gets resolved. Like you didn't really need another strategy. And so, yeah, it's something that is very, it's one of those things that you just kind of have to experience it to fully understand, oh, I didn't need strategy.
Yeah. And I think like having kids, yes, like being married, having kids, and having a business, like they're all personal development programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you want them to be or not. But like, yeah, your kids are going to challenge you in ways you never could have imagined and show you things about yourself that you never imagined were there. And so will run your business.
Right. And it's, I love that you mentioned that, because it does, like, it goes all which ways. Like you can learn something in your marriage or in parenting that translates over to your business, vice versa. Like it's just all intertwined and integrated. And so it is really cool to see how those lessons can translate.
Yeah. And so did you ever have a point, excuse me, in your journey where you saw you needed to invest in yourself and focus more on that growth than on the strategy or the business plan or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a little further into my business journey when it really clicked for me. I remember when I was new, and I know this is very common because I've talked with this, with other people about this, where you just you don't know what you don't know. And so as a new business owner, I was like, well, I don't know business stuff. I don't know marketing. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to, there's so many things that I felt like I didn't know. So it is very natural to see how I assumed that it was a strategy thing. But I would say, kind of my second year in business is when I started having my eyes opened up to how your mindset and even just your faith, like your relationship with God, plays into your business, and started, really diving into that more. And then year 3, I ended up working with a mindset coach. And that was probably one of the best business investments I've ever made. We didn't even talk about that, but words. We didn't even talk about my business that much, but it grew me so much where it's like, I feel like I'm still seeing the return on that investment tenfold, because it really, at the end of the day, it's like, it's you running your business, and you can have all the strategy and all the tools and all the resources. But if you're not ready for it, if you're not ready for success, if you're not ready to work with clients or have that big launch that you want to do, or even sign your first client, if that's where you're at, if you're not ready personally, then it's not going to go super well, right? Like that signing that first client is going to be really stressful, or, you're just going to be all in your head the whole time about, worrying if you're knowledgeable enough or whatever. Like there's just so many ways that it can show up. So that, I would say that was kind of the turning point for me, was year 3 of my business, where now I know how important it is to invest in myself. And even, not always that's like a, working with a coach example, but even the days where I need a nap, or I need to go take a walk, or, my daughter's home and I don't have any pressing work stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to take it easy today, and I'm going to have a fun day, and I'm going to, take this as a me day. Things like that, I very much view as investing in myself, or my time in the morning where I have like my devotional time and journal and just kind of let myself be and think my thoughts. That is all, that has, like, because I've seen the evidence now of how much of a difference that makes for me as a business owner. It's very easy for me to embrace, I need to invest in myself, like in all these different ways.
Yeah. And I love that you're bringing that out, that it doesn't have to be investing in a coach or counseling or whatever you might need. Like you might need to invest that way, but it's those little investments every day that you're telling yourself, no, I'm worth this. I'm worth paying attention to what I need. I'm worth giving myself some time off and, paying attention to my own thoughts and having my own space.
Yeah.
And that those little ways of investing are going to make big dividends too.
Right. Exactly. Because that's how the big changes happen, is these little actions. And so if you're doing, and this is on my mind too, because the book that I'm reading right now is Atomic Habits, but it's like, if you are doing these little actions every day, even if it means I'm going to, I get up at 5 every morning, and have my time, that makes a huge difference. And so just doing that every single day, if I do nothing else for myself, I did that. And it's just kind of flexing that muscle of, like I'm worth it. I deserve to take care of myself, and seeing the value of yourself helps you do quote unquote bigger things.
Yeah. And that you can run a business for a while, not taking care of yourself, but ultimately that's not going to work out. So investing in yourself all the way along the way is really investing in your business too.
Right. Exactly. And again, it's such an integrated thing where it's like, I know when I'm successful in my business, I'm growing my business, I'm serving my clients well, I'm showing up on my podcast. These things help me be a better mom and wife. But also when I am when we're going out for our weekly date nights, or even just grab a few minutes to talk to each other when it's been a crazy, chaotic day, or when I am present with my daughter and we make banana bread together or something. It's like, these things help me grow my business. It's such a two-way street, because you have to have both. Like if you're missing one, if you're in the zone where business is number one with your priorities, like where you spend your time shows what you really value. You can say all day long that this is what I value in this order, but if, business is number one where you're spending the most time, it doesn't appear that way. And so either way, if it's out of balance, it is such a detriment. And so it's very cool to see how it's all beneficial, right? The success in your business helps you be more present and more joyful with your family, and vice versa.
Yeah. And comes back again to, like you were saying, to figure out, who do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And if deep down inside, you're called to build a business and make an impact, but you're called to be a mom, and you're letting either one of them slide,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what's creating that stress inside, because like, I'm not being true to who I want to be. I'm not living in integrity. And so figuring out, like you were saying, what is it behind that? What's the mindset? Or what's the reason I'm not showing up as a mom, or I'm not showing up in my business? Either way, digging into, let's deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there's so many ways to grow a business. I know, I still have so many ideas. I feel like I get a new idea every single day. And so it's like having that as a filter to be able to look at this idea and be like, is this in line with what I said I'm focusing on this quarter or this month in my business, or the pace at which I'm going to run my business this summer, right? Like, if it's not in alignment with that, I'm going to, set that idea aside, or maybe it is, and I'm going to run with it. So it's just, having that as really like the guidepost that I keep coming back to. How do I want to live my life? How do I want to be with my family? And that's going to dictate what my business looks like.
Yeah, I really like that. And like, practically, what does that look like? Like, do you have a weekly time or a monthly time, or what, where you review, like, this is my focus? Or how do you keep that in the forefront?
Yeah. So I am not like a big, huge planner person. So I will just preface it by saying that I do quarterly planning, monthly planning loosely. Really, the biggest difference maker that I've seen, though, is just my weekly and daily focus. Like, just kind of looking at this week, what are my priorities? But even just on a day-to-day basis, what are my priorities today? Because it's so easy to have, think that you're going to get 10 things done or 10 big projects done this whole week. It's like, really? I didn't complete any because I was trying to do 10, and it would have been more realistic to just have one big project and have a couple tasks each day. So my rule of thumb with myself is to have no more than 3 tasks on my to-do list for the day. If I check those off and get more done, that's great. But it's just something that has been proven to be true for myself time and time again, that if I have more than 3 things on there, they're not going to get done. And most likely those are the days where I don't end up checking anything off, right? Because I'm just like running around like a chicken with my head chopped off. Like, I have all these things to do. When am I going to do it? And then I get to the end of the day and I'm like, oh, I didn't do any of it.
Yeah. I did enough little bits here and there that now it feels like a bigger mess than when I started. Right,
exactly.
Well, thanks for visiting with me today. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share? Any encouragement to other moms?
I guess so. The reminder that I would love to just share with everyone, if you're going to take away one thing from this conversation, would be just to trust yourself, trust the decisions that you make in your business, trust the needs that you feel like you have. If you are, having a day where you're trying to do something in your business and it's just the idea is not flowing, maybe you're trying to create content or something, and you just feel this, still small voice being like, hey, go take a walk. Like, go do that. Like, trust yourself to know what you need in that moment. And it can spill over into all areas, right? Just speaking up and owning what you need in your marriage or in your family, whatever. But it's just, I think that's one of the best things that you can do is start flexing that muscle of trusting yourself. Because at the end of the day, there's so many things that it's like, it's between you and God. And so, God puts these desires on our heart for a reason, and you can trust those. Right. And so I think that's something that is just really, really important.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining me today. And I will put your information for how moms can connect with you in the show notes, and just be blessed. And
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. I'm blessed to have you here. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join us in the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up Facebook community. When you're ready for more support, I have the Heart Doodling with Jesus monthly membership, periodic group coaching, and one-on-one personalized coaching as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.